Welcome to the Navigating Solo podcast, the show dedicated to empowering solo agers and those who support them to make informed, proactive, and fulfilling choices for every stage of life. I'm your host, Aileen Gerhardt, board-certified patient advocate, solo aging educator, and founder of the Navigating Solo Network. Whether you're living alone, aging without close family nearby, or simply navigating independently, this podcast is your trusted guide to resources, ideas, and real-life stories that help you thrive on your own terms. Today's conversation focuses on a movement that's transformed how older adults connect, find support, and stay engaged in their communities, the Village Movement. Our guest is Barbara Sullivan, Executive Director of the Village to Village Network, a national organization that supports and strengthens local villages across the country. Under Barbara's leadership, the network has grown to meet the evolving needs of older adults, including the growing number of solo agers. During our conversation, we'll explore what a village is, why it matters, and how villages can be a vital resource for solo agers who want to remain independent and connected. Barbara, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Aileen. I'm very thrilled to be here and have a conversation that's near and dear to my heart, the village model.
I love the village model. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. One of the themes that comes up often in my work with solos is that desire to stay independent, but not isolated, to age in community with confidence and connection. The village model seems like a really strong match for that goal. The first question will give us sort of the groundwork of exactly what a village is, how it came to be, what makes the model unique, and then if you feel like it, throw in how the Village to Village Network helps people, especially solos, age in their own homes and communities. I realize that's a lot to ask in a first question, but I'm sure you'll be able to capture it.
Let's start with the village model. People think, the village, it's not the place in Florida. Let's just clarify that.
Right.
The village model started, believe it or not, 25 years ago. So this movement is 25 years old, and it started in Boston with a group of folks up in Beacon Hill that decided they didn't want to downsize and move to that brick and mortar institutional setting. They wanted to stay in their homes and, more importantly, in their community, and how to do that. And it took them about 2 years to just figure out how to create this model. And it incorporates basically neighbor helping neighbor. And it's very grassroots. It is organically grown from the communities. Each of the villages are very unique. They have common characteristics, but then at the end of the day, they're all very unique and they're serving their community in ways. And so we'll talk about that as we go along. But you touched on one area, and hence this podcast, the village model and aging in place with solo agers. And I think it offers a distinctive community-based approach to supporting solo agers. And how you define solo aging is a broad term, but I consider myself a solo ager, having lost my husband, and I don't have anybody living here, and I have to navigate. And we see 22 million people out there in the United States are solo aging or living alone over 65. That's quite a number. And 3% of them, or 3 million of them, are truly no children, and they are solo aging. And I think that the village model is unique and effective for this particular group of folks. As I mentioned, villages are member-led. So you become a member, and it is a membership organization. It's not a service agency or a provider or a care. We don't do activities of daily living. We help support each other through daily activities, whether it's social programs or support the honey-do list. I can't reach the light bulb and I need somebody to come over, a volunteer to come over and change the light bulb, or this is the time of year where everybody needs to change their smoke detectors. Reasons to go on a ladder. But I have to say, through the transition of these community based organizations, we navigated COVID big time. And we not only survived COVID, we thrived during COVID because we're so grassroots, we're so local, we're more local than the public health department. And being able to help with programs or services or transportation, look at how many people need transportation as we age. And it's not, I still drive, but wonder if I need an outpatient type of surgery. Kids live an hour and a half, 2 hours away. I would love to have one of my villages. I have a great village here at the shore, Village by the Shore, catchy name. Would help support people to stay independent and active within their homes and in their community. And I think it also gives solo agers a sense of ownership and control and empowerment rather than dependence on external institutions and different things. You're growing with your neighbors. But also, I have to turn it not just as a member, but volunteering. We saw an uptick of volunteering during COVID because we wanted purpose. Everybody was at home. Everybody got a taste of being isolated. I think that really resonates with a lot of folks.
I know that the villages all have different models when it comes to membership, right? There's also that component of there are different membership fees and different breakdowns in different parts of the country. Here in Massachusetts, just in the east and western parts of Massachusetts, the models are different in terms of cost. Is that speaks to the unique nature and the flavor and culture of each. So there is that umbrella model, but then of course, like you said, there's so much that is built into the culture and the unique nature of that particular community.
And it's funny, even though their membership, there are villages that do have membership dues, but I will tell you that probably 99% of our villages have some scholarship program in place.
That's great.
So it really the model tries to be inclusive with everybody. And let's face it, the reason that Beacon Hill Village really looked at this is because they were middle class. And we have heard time and time again, the missing middle, which is, as a definition, people who are not rich enough to afford the services that they may need, who are not poor enough to get the support through state, local, and federal assistance programs. It really is geared towards that middle America. I think and as you said, Aileen, Massachusetts has 32 villages and everyone is unique. I mean, I was up in Northampton I guess it was 6 or 8 weeks ago. No, it was at the end of September, middle of September. We did a wellness day. And it was Amherst and Northampton villages, and they have 2,000 members, membership dues.
Right.
They have a huge contingency. The villages on the Cape, they're all very unique. And that's why I say it's their common characteristics, but they are the core in the community.
Which is also fantastic because it reflects where people are, meeting them where they are and how they're living and their particular community.
Yeah.
Villages, as we've been talking about, definitely stand out in terms of how there's that combination of practical support and that genuine human connection. And things like, as you just mentioned, transportation, social activities, having someone nearby to lend a hand or to jump on that, not jump, but to get on that ladder and change that light bulb. What, from your perspective, makes the village model especially valuable for solos, more than even what you've shared before, which has been great? And in general, how do villages help build those social connections and those informal supports that everyone seeks out as they're aging, but especially solo agers?
So, great question. And as I said, villages intentionally build social networks. I should have backed up and said, I ran a village for like almost 10 years. And prior to that, I was an assisted living administrator. So I've seen the aging network firsthand. Villages really build on that connectiveness. And it's a crucial benefit for solo agers, especially those who are at risk of isolation. And we know that. And villages intentionally do programs. They are there to make sure, and not just for solo agers, but for all their members, that they're not scammed. That they provide a network of reliable resources. They do their homework. I know that I was in Fairfax County, Virginia, where I lived previously, where my village was, and all the programs that the county offered, people didn't know about them. And so villages, you connect the dots. Did you know that if the trashman will come and get your barrels, if you just fill out this one little piece of it's mind-boggling what you don't know and a community offers and serves. From the smallest things. Like I said, I found out we had a village member who she was a single gal and she had knee surgery and she had, and Virginia is very hilly where we were. And she couldn't get down to get her mailbox, her mail in her mailbox because of her, knees really crippling. So she asked us if we would move the mailbox. Guess what? It's a federal offense to move a mailbox. Did you know that? So I went to the postmaster and I said, this gal, she's immobile and I need some help. And he went over and he actually got in his car, went over and looked and he moved the mailbox up next to her house.
Fantastic.
It's just little things like that. People, it's like peace of mind. It's the programs and the ability to have something in place to depend on as we age and know that it's a reliable resource. I always said, you're never too old to make a new friend.
Absolutely.
And that's just due. You join the village and all of a sudden you've got a whole new network of group of friends. The network itself, from our standpoint, we're the national network, so we represent all the member villages throughout the United States. And there's about 280 villages that are open and operating. We wish there were more. We wish we could scale it faster, bigger, and we'll talk about that later. But we're like a village commons. We lead, we find resources, we give it to our villages, whether it's how to run your office software to a program to give to your members that might be beneficial. But we're a village common. But the other part of the network is the advocacy end and what we are doing. We are COVID. I'll go back to COVID again and think about all the people in the aging spectrum. We were all silos. We're all like not talking to each other in a community. Right. And COVID taught us that we can't be silos anymore. We have to work within our community. And that includes not just the aging organizations, nursing homes and assisted livings and independent living. Sometimes the house is not exactly conducive for you to be living there. Right. And you might need to downsize. And where is there in your community? And partnering with these resources is great. And I keep on stressing the fact that it's about community because a house is a house. It's the people that you surround yourself with in your community that really make the difference. Your church, your exercise class, your senior center, if you go to the community center.
Well, those all speak to quality of life, from moving a mailbox to all of those things in between, living a dynamic life, but making sure that the quality of life is maintained and that you're able to do so in partnering with other people is a great thing too. That gives people new opportunities. People get to volunteer and help someone else. I always remind people in my various talks that volunteer to help someone else before you need help yourself. One, it's a really great human thing to do, and that would be great if we just thought about it on a human level. But two, it also demonstrates that you're willing to help someone else and you might need help yourself. So that volunteering component can be very helpful and also very meaningful to people. In my work with solos, I have a slide that sort of has 7 pieces of a pie. Someone told me recently it looks like one of those Trivial Pursuit gate pieces, which tells you, what kind of generations I was speaking to, because I understood the reference, but I don't know how many younger generations would. But talking about these different planning needs, these different pieces, some people refer to them as pillars of healthcare, legal, financial, housing, community, building a support network, and lifelong learning. And the beautiful thing is villages definitely overlap in a lot of those things in a way of supporting people through navigating some of those pieces. As you mentioned, it's not a service provider, but in that support, but it definitely falls into that community pillar because solos often not only ask the question, where will I live, but who is available for me to rely on in terms of people being able to have the services they need because of a vetted vendor list or a
Oh,
reliable
okay. Yeah.
community resource and still also be able to really engage in the various learning opportunities or social opportunities that foster connection. Are there any standout examples of how people have maintained both of those things? Right.
Actually, and independently foster all of those. They are there to look, as I said, what's available in the community. When a village starts, they're looking, part of that 2-year process is to navigate what resources are available and what is needed, like a needs assessment almost. And also we look at, Aileen, I think villages are the intersection of social care and healthcare.
Mm,
And so to be able, and some of our villages are partnering with those healthcare systems and making sure that there's a continuity of care. That's the big thing that our
right.
villages are looking at, and maybe not a deficit, a hurdle that we have to realize. And we realize that sometimes you need more than just what the village can offer. And
Mhm.
those partnerships and the reciprocation of those community resources, whether it's a spouse that has dementia or somebody or a sole wager that needs more physical therapy, or and so
Right.
these are really great segues into the continuum of care as we need more help. And I think the model centers on helping villages stay active and independent in their homes. And I think that's the top priority for solo agers and most of us. And so some of the things that our villages are doing are programs, like you said. I love one of them that just did, one of our villages did with a physical therapist, how to get up from a fall. And like all of us fall, it happens, but it's how to safely fall. Is there a safe way to fall?
Mhm.
But the other one was a program on polypharmacy, which I thought was fabulous.
Oh, that's a
And
really important topic.
polypharmacy, it blew my mind. This pharmacist, our doctors are great, but they're nothing compared to our pharmacists. They're the
Pharmacists, I say all the time, are the most underutilized resources, and they are so helpful. I
right,
remind people to call their insurance company and ask
right.
to a pharmacist when they pick up a med to speak to their pharmacist because they are so knowledgeable. And like you said, the other providers are also very knowledgeable, but these folks really have a really great knowledge base that can benefit every patient.
But it's also planning,
Mm,
and to your point with the pharmacist, I didn't realize you shouldn't be taking this medic. Doctors prescribe medicines, but they don't tell you, oh, by the way, you're on this. You can't take this at this. Crazy.
or if you're
Um,
taking this, you can't take ibuprofen or
right,
acetaminophen or whatever it is. Right.
right. Yeah. So and it's great. The whole legal aspect,
Mhm.
I'll never, it wasn't a solo wager. It was a couple, and the husband had a seizure and was incapacitated. And the wife, and he was laid up for a good 3 or 4 weeks, and she didn't know how to pay the mortgage.
Right.
She didn't know how to transfer money. So
Uh-huh.
it's important to get as I have an attorney that does this lecture, it's called Your Digital Life and Afterlife.
Yes.
She's fabulous.
Mhm.
But it's when you are solo aging, get your ducks in a row, you
Oh,
know,
without a doubt.
get your passwords, your banking, have it to the point where you have a trusted person that can follow up. Villages do. We have a lot of village members who become friendly with each other and they're there for each other.
It's great.
Yeah.
I think that people often will say to me, when should I start thinking about planning? And I usually respond with today, no matter what age
Yesterday.
they are. Right. Yeah. Yesterday. Right. But this whole notion of when we're able to make decisions proactively, we always have a better outcome than
Right.
reactively. We
Right.
can't change the medical. We can't change the science. We can't change the pieces we don't control, but we control a lot of the decision making or the preparation to know if I need to spend time at a rehab, what are the rehabs in my community? I've seen some of them, I've toured some of them, I've interviewed a aging life care manager or a healthcare advocate or a plumber or whatever, right? Ahead of time so that it's proactive in knowing who's on the team and who can provide those resources. And villages just fit seamlessly into that as well.
It's so true. And it's funny, you make me think about my personal life a lot. My husband, Barry, one of his best friends was a Barry also. And he was a singer, he was a solo. He never got married, never had children, had lots of godchildren, no siblings, nothing.
Yes.
Okay. So really, truly, and he was a big, giant bear of a guy, and he had some surgery, and I was one of his POAs, for returning and medical, and he needed to go to a rehab, a sniff, to some rehab, and he was bucking it. And I'm telling you, Barry was 6'4", big barrel chested, big guy. He was from Massachusetts. Anyway, he was bucking. He was like, I'm not going, I'm not going. So I made him sit down. I put the toilet seat down. I said, sit down. And he sat down. And I said, now get up without using your hands.
Right.
And he couldn't. I said, and there's your answer. You're
Right.
going to rehab.
So that you're
But-
able to benefit from other people's knowledge, right? But what we tell ourselves on the inside of our head, all of these, our internal soundtracks of this is hard, or I should know this, or I'm the only one who doesn't know this, or any of that. To your point of we don't know what we don't know. No one ever hands us a manual and says, this is how you adult. There's no prompt. When you mentioned changing or it used to be the batteries on your smoke detector, when time changed, they would remind us of that. I would love for there to be something besides, we have National Healthcare Decision Day, which is April 16th. It's the day after tax day, because the only things you can't get away with in life are death and taxes. So once you've done the taxes part, look at the sort of advanced care planning. But other than that, which not a lot of people know about, we don't have a natural trigger for, have you thought about your plan? Have you revisited your plan? Right? There's none of that. We've been there was that very intentional, marketing about, oh, you're changing the time, change the, 9-volt battery or whatever it was in your, in your smoke detector before it beeps at 3 a.m. But we don't have those mechanisms now. And so it is so easy to wind up being reactive in decision making because we haven't been set up to do it in a way that's proactive. And I encourage people, definitely they should start planning it at every age. But I definitely think as people are in their 50s, they really need to start thinking about it. Earlier would be great. That's an ideal. I'd be very happy. But realistically, that doesn't always happen.
Well, and we're looking at, we have a workforce shortage. We have a lot of issues nationally that are challenging for folks that are living in the community. And I think the village model, or what they call CBOs, community-based organizations, are supplementing a lot of the things that we took for granted within our community that state, local, and federal governments have been able to do. So when you talk about the nursing homes and rehabs and whatnot, there's great ways to look and see if you do have elective surgery, you can go on CMS and get their rating. You can get there. All you have to do, it's really easy. And a lot of the villages do their homework ahead of time, which is good, and looking to see what's in the community available.
Do you guys use the Leapfrog safety guide that they do as well for care facilities around the country?
I have not used Leapfrog. I know other people have. I depend. Typically, when I was the ED at Mount Vernon and Home, I went and visited the properties. Went in to see the temporary. We had the sunrises and some of the other local things. Also, starting programs. We had a program for men, and men who may have maybe some mild cognitive, but it was a social program, and it was great. And it was run by volunteers within. So other men ran this program, and they would go and they'd play cards, or they would watch a movie and it was great. But again, I went to one of the local assisted livings and said, can we do this program at your space? And they said, yeah, and we'll feed your people also. So it's
Oh,
just asking. Oh, yeah. So just a small example of being able to do outreach within your own community. The same with, as I said, with vetting contractors. I mean, who can get contractor these days to come out and fix something? It's hard, but you also don't want to be scammed. I don't know. We always had people knocking on the door. Hey, you have, and this is so true.
uh-huh.
They would knock on one of my member stores and they'd say, you have some missing roof tiles. I could do it for X number of dollars, and you've given them $1,000 and all they did was use the hammer on it and they didn't do anything.
And now the shift to the digital scamming protections, right? What comes in over people's cell phones, what truly, comes from the post office or whoever, and utilizing the language that gets ours psychologically, where we're revved up because I don't want my roof to suddenly have a giant hole in it. I need
Right,
those tiles fixed. You'll do it great.
right.
Or someone's calling me to say they need, financial help to get out of a situation. Of course I'll do that. But the notion now that it's been taken on with such a sophistication, we just need to continue to educate ourselves to be able to educate others about what the realistic pieces of that are.
And I think that's truly, I still get Mount Homes emails and they constantly send me things to their members. I'm on their membership list. Hey, this scam is out now. And it's about the easy pass. You've done, how many of us have gotten it? I'm like, I wasn't even in Virginia where I went early. And you're fine. You're going to be violated. It's going to go to a collection agency.
Right.
It panics people.
Right,
You
because
know,
that's language that definitely sets us off.
right,
It has
right.
a definite meaning, and we don't want to experience that. We want to avoid that. I think that's really
Yeah.
critical. I actually just from my town got an email telling me now that they're subscribing to Smart 911, which is an online service. I know it's fascinating. An
I'm gonna write it
online
down.
service and they have an app for the phone where you put in your information to help with first responders. So they know
Oh,
there's an emergency contact, they know
oh,
blood type, they know hair color, and what you're voluntarily putting in the information. You're not required to do so. But the idea is to benefit the first responders being as accurate as possible. And so I looked up some other communities around the country where I knew people lived, and a lot of towns are now doing that. It seems like a really great resource that I
it's
learned about this morning.
fabulous.
I think the fact that when a plumber or a contractor or whoever is on that village list, people should know that they've been query checked. They've had background checks. You don't just get to wind up on someone's list without being thoroughly vetted. And I think that's really important too. That vetting is taken very seriously. It's not just, oh, yeah, I know a friend who knows a friend who used this person. It's not a
Right,
5-minute process for
right.
the professional, and it shouldn't be. And I think that that's something else that definitely is an extreme benefit from a village. We didn't talk about this before explicitly, but when people reach out to a village, what's sort of the demographic in that? Are they the individuals themselves living in community, trying to connect with their greater community? Is it adult children or adult family members calling a community because they want that peace of mind for their family member, aunt,
I,
uncle, whoever?
I think it varies, Aileen, but I'd say traditionally, and I will tell you personally, we used to take out an ad in the local newspaper about our village day before Thanksgiving because adult children come
Right.
in and they're like, "Oh, what's mom? What?" And so it really targeted the adult children. But I will say, honestly, it's more of the older adult that reaches out in the community. They bring a friend. It really is a network, peer to peer, a community connection that they hear about and they want to join. But here's the thing that I think villages challenge are challenged with is that people say, I don't need any services. When I lecture across the country and start my conversations with folks, I'm like, okay, everyone in the room, anybody who, has long-term care insurance
Mm,
policies, raise your hand. And maybe, depending on the area you are,
right.
maybe a third will raise their hand and have some type of long-term care policy. I say, great, keep that hand up and take your hand and pat yourself on the back because you have plan B. What
And
about the
please
rest of
call the
you?
agent that's listed on your policy to make sure it's still covering what you
Right.
think it covered when you
Oh,
bought
yeah,
it
right.
right down.
And that's a whole other story. But
Right.
it's about plan A and the I'm not ready yet.
Mhm,
Tomorrow could change that story immediately.
mhm.
And so having a plan, a prepared plan, you don't have to do everything the village does, but it's there to have as a backup and it's a support system. And I think it's really when things hit the fan, you have a village. And I have a great story to tell you when you're ready for a story
Okay.
about how a village came to the rescue.
Feel free, go ahead. Sounds
So
like a perfect time.
my pals in Pasadena, they had the fires. They had the
Right.
fires back in January, and um, 90 of their members were displaced out of their homes. 90
Wow.
of the 90, I think it was about 84 or 85 of them were put up in other members' homes. Yeah. So until they
Talk
navigated.
about neighbors supporting neighbors, right?
Right, and in a place and a couple had to go to the shelter, but I don't know the percentage of people who actually lost their homes. It was a high number,
Uh-huh.
but it gives you an idea of this incredible bond that villages, "Okay, I have an extra room, come over,"
Right.
and they navigated it, and then the community at large not only gave donations, but they were doing food and it really it resonates with me. We did this back with Mount Vernon, whom we had the derecho come through
Mhm.
back in 80, 90. I guess it was 2018, 17, 18. I forget. But and it destroyed it broke down lines, it broke down communication lines, like so all Verizon and all the internet, everything
Mhm.
was down. You couldn't communicate. So what did the village do? They divided the list up of all the village members, our board, and they went and they checked on each of the members. And
That's
that's
fabulous.
what I mean. So we had 120 members and we had 10 people. Everybody had 10 members to check on in their community and to make
Right.
sure that they were okay. And
So being a part of a community that offers that is really important and can be extremely beneficial. I think the I'm not ready for that yet thing comes up a lot when you talk to councils on aging or senior centers, depending on where you are in the country, they're referred to different ways. If it says senior center above the door, an older adult may not want to walk through it. If it says community center, they may be more willing to walk through
I
it.
have to agree with them.
Right. But the I'm not ready for this yet, I usually encourage people to ask the follow-up question of what will it look like when you are ready for that? What do
Right,
you have?
right.
Because you clearly have a vision right now that this doesn't meet whatever you have as your checklist of I'm ready for that. So what would that look like? Back to your plan B, right? What does that look like so that we are able to know that either as the individual or as members of a support network that you've already had that conversation
Right.
and you can put it into place, and villages can be a part of that, especially if people are a part of it before their quote unquote needs change. But I'm not ready for that yet comes up a lot.
And I have another story for I'm not ready yet because I had a member. She was actually a volunteer, great volunteer. Um, she and her husband lived in New York City for years. They raised their children, blah, blah, blah. They moved to Northern Virginia and he never learned how to drive, which
Ah,
is typical,
in New York City, of
right.
course.
I mean, like,
Right.
and they were not ready. They didn't want to join. She was happy to be a volunteer and so on and so on. She was out walking the dog one day, stepped in a hole, broke her ankle. Okay. So now
Yep.
she's immobile. Okay. Her husband doesn't drive, and she's in a wheelchair. She had surgery and everything else. She joined Mount Vernon at home. She joined the village and she wasn't willing to join the village before that. She
I'm
realized
not
that they
ready for
needed
that yet.
groceries. They needed to get out. They were things. And that was 10 years ago. She's been a member ever since.
And
But
I'm
it
sure
shows you,
they were so grateful that it existed, right? I think
right. I know.
that
Yeah.
they had that opportunity to, even if they had pushed back a little on the, I'm not
Right.
ready for that yet. They knew about the resource, even if they were pushing back on it, and
Right.
then they were able to engage with it, I think is really fabulous. Back to that plan B, right? If you're
Right.
not ready yet, what's on the short list of things you've already put together to make sure that you know what next steps will be when it comes to if things change for you, and
No, and
like you
also,
said, they can change in the blink of an eye. You can take a wrong step, right? Any of that.
we also have an emerging group, and they're the boomers, like the younger boomers, like my age group, who are turning 65. What is it, 11,000
Mhm.
a day
A day,
are
right.
turning 65.
Huh?
And we're looking at another couple of years with the boomers. But this is the height of it right now. They're retiring and they're looking for, and let's face it, when you retire, you're looking for purpose to give back, and you want to feel good at the end of the day that you've done something productive.
Right.
And so volunteerism is a good part of it. But then we also address through the village model how volunteers can be part of the village,
Huh.
just not just as a volunteer, but as a member,
Huh.
a valued member in the community.
I think the different access points for people, different entry points are really critical. We do know that the boomer generation, a quarter of the baby boomers did not have kids.
Yep.
And like you just mentioned, we have a caregiving shortage. We have all kinds of shortages, right? I always joke if you put that in a blender, the smoothie is not going to taste great.
Right.
So the notion of things coming from the ground up and
Hmm.
evolving in a way that's organic to the place people already are and want to be.
Right.
Right now,
Right.
aging, I usually call it aging in community, but aging in a place, aging in community isn't right for everyone. It's not always a great fit for everyone, either because of potential isolation or not having access to different kinds of services. But for a lot of people, the comfort, the familiarity, all of those pieces are things they want to hold on to. And
Hmm.
so to be able to do that, where there are community-based organizations that are able to meet those needs, engage people. One of the things about retiring, there's a lot about third places, concept of third places, that our first place is usually our home, where we have the most intimate, the most close of connections, whatever that means. Our second place often is our workplace. So I sort of have adapted it and remind people that if they go somewhere consistently after they've retired, that can be their second place, whether that's volunteering or, right?
Right.
Then
Right.
all the other places we go to in a day, to a coffee shop, to a book club, to play cards, to a member meeting, whatever, those are all opportunities to
Right.
engage with other people. And yes, it's never bad to make a new friend. It is harder as we age we feel to make new connections.
Right.
And so the opportunity to do that in a pre-existing space, I think is also really fantastic, because older adults talk all the time about how hard it is now to make new connections because you're not in those feeder patterns you were in before. And so I think villages offering that, other community-based organizations offering that, is really critical and really beneficial. And so we have definitely covered a lot of ground. I have a feeling that there are people watching or listening that are thinking, well, this is great, but while I was listening or while I was watching, I did a quick Google search or some kind of search and can't find a village in my community, or found a village in my community and I don't know what to do next, or I don't even know where to Google. What would be next steps for people if they're interested in going beyond listening to actually engaging with a village, either because it exists or in a dream for people who really want to start or are entertaining starting a village?
So the model has evolved so much, Aileen. And to your point, we have people who want to start a village and they're with faith-based organizations and they're
Mhm.
starting a village. We have senior centers that are starting villages. So you talk about the crossover to the agencies and the area agencies on
Mhm.
we are really involved with a lot of that. We've taken this model and it's evolved. You can start, we have a new primer guide that kind of gives you, and it's free, and we're distributing it left and right. And we're getting the word out how to do this within your community. It shouldn't be organically anymore. You should be partnering with. We have leading ages coming up in Boston this weekend, and
Mhm.
we have a lot of providers that are interested in nonprofit providers who are looking at the community based
Right.
model and how they can start things. So it starts with a conversation. It starts
Mhm.
with calling us at B2B and definitely going on our map to see if you have a village near you and calling them. And if it's not near you, we have a little a different type of model called the hub and spoke, where there's already a hub in one part of your,
Mhm.
and maybe you could be a spoke of that in your own town.
Ah,
So Rhode Island's a good example. There's 11 villages in Rhode Island and they're all hub and spoke. There's one main office and then the spokes are all different locations throughout Rhode Island. Same
that's
in
great.
Portland. So it's being able to connect this, and we're happy to talk to anybody. We have lots of representatives that would be happy to sit down. We have a mentor program. Um, we have a toolkit that will help folks to start a village. And so these are all tools that will help a community. If you're interested, we're there to help you guide you. California has a great incubator program. They
Mhm.
have 50 some odd villages out in California and they are scaling in their incubator program. It's a regional group. The same
That's
with Washington, D.C., the District, Maryland, and Virginia, which they affectionately call DMV, has a regional group called WAVE, Washington Area Village Exchange. And they are 100% into helping scale other villages in the tri state area.
that's
So,
fantastic.
yeah.
That's just another layer of teamwork and support
Yeah.
and everything else.
Well, it's peer to peer. We are here to help scale as and get in any community we can.
So, as we've been talking, we definitely know that so much has been accomplished. There are always things that we want to do when we've accomplished a bunch of things, but we always have an aspirational list or a short list or something. What's next for the village movement? What are some things that are being thought about?
We're definitely part of, we've been invited to the table, which is unusual since COVID, but invited to the aging table as an entity. So we're actually being recognized with the big guys, AARP and leading Council of Aging organizations and
Mhm.
National Council on Aging and US Aging, which is all the area agencies on aging. So these are conversations that we're having actively and there's a lot of interest. But it also is primer guide is to try to get people to start taking an interest on how we're going to change the paradigm. We cannot all afford institutional settings as we
Right.
age, and we all want to be in our homes and in our community. And this is the way to make it happen.
Institutional settings also may not meet the needs of boomer generation and other generations that, or people who are used to having solar panels and gardens and,
Right.
even a community garden model, right? All of those things, if they are not offered in a current community you might be looking at, you may not engage with it. It may just
Right.
not
Right.
continue that quality of life you're looking for. It will be exciting to see all the different ways that the village to village movement continues to thrive. I've been very fortunate that I've had the opportunity to partner with local villages, national villages, you and your office staff, and it just makes complete sense for anyone as they're
Right.
aging. And since I have a very warm spot in my heart for solos, it definitely is a great fit for solos in addition. Before we wrap up, I have one more question, but is there anything we didn't cover that you want to make sure we did sort of in the brass tacks of
No,
villages?
the only thing that I will mention is we did a big research study with Rutgers last year. It was an 18-month endeavor. You can find it on villagesresearch.org. So it's villages with an S research.org. And the title was Healthy Aging in Villages, and quite an interesting journey. A lot of seasoned villages. We had summits throughout the country and people talking about how they want to age and what healthy aging is.
This is the 25th anniversary year of the Village to Village movement.
Yep.
Now, that's incredible. I think that's just completely amazing. And I will make sure to put the research website link in the show notes so that people can launch
Okay.
off of
Terrific.
it.
Yeah. It's great. We're also conducting a big census, which we're very excited about. And again, it's with Rutgers University. The census is we haven't done it since 2014. We don't know how many people we serve. Last count was about 50,000, but we don't know that. And so this census is going to be incredible. We'll have logistics, demographics, you name it. It's going to be a very comprehensive survey of our villages across the country. So we're in the
Do you
throes
have
of
a
that right
sense
now.
of when the last educated guesstimate with some data behind it, that 50,000 was
Now, Berkeley did it back in 2014. I will tell
yeah,
you, here's a good example. So Village Move California just did a survey and they got 50% response of their 55 villages. 50%.
wow,
Okay. And
that's quite high.
they wanted more, but 50%, so 25 villages. And they came up with that they serve 10,000 people. So that's just 25
California.
villages.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. That's only
So
50% of what's happening.
right.
Right.
So if that gives you a little sample of why I want the census done is we need these numbers. We want to show what we're doing. This
Right.
is
And it goes beyond the continental United States. I know there are villages in Hawaii. Are there villages yet in Alaska? I can't.
yeah, we've had
Yep.
one in Fairbanks for years. We have two in Canada and one in Australia. So they take the model. It's a little different. The one in Canada, in Newfoundland, it's more of a co-op. It's more because of their structure of government versus the U.S.
But that speaks again to the unique nature of where it is and what it is, right?
Right.
That it's not,
Right.
here's the model, everyone go plug it in, have a nice time. That's not the village model. And I think it's better for it. So before we wrap up, I like to ask questions that sometimes give viewers or listeners just a little more insight into our guests. So, using the village idea, if your ideal village hosted a monthly neighbors' night in, so a casual potluck, what would you bring or share, and why does it matter to you?
This is so tough for me. I don't know. I'm between the fact that when I go to a potluck, I like to be creative. So yeah, I went to one the other night and I made a charcuterie board that was Halloween themed. And that's
Nice.
my stamp. It's like I like to be creative. So it
So,
had a
whatever it would
skeleton.
be,
Yeah. It was very cool. My nephews were like, "Oh, Barbie, oh my God. Look at the skeleton." I made the skeleton out of brie.
fantastic.
It was cool.
That's fabulous. I think that creativity piece is fabulous and also can be a true reflection of someone, right, as they participate in a community event of some kind, right, an organized event of some kind. I think that's fantastic. And does the creativity go beyond potluck
Yeah, I do
attending?
lots of oh, yeah, I do. I wish I could take you outside and see the pumpkins I painted. So one of my neighbors came over and said, "Did your grandchildren do that?" I'm like, "No, that's me."
That was my
They've got the
self-care
skeletons.
activity.
They've got the skeletons all outside. I did some decoupaging. I live at the beach, so I took my seashells and I made some
Fabulous.
decoupage inside just to be creative.
That's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And so good for one's soul, right? What
Yes, it's
we
fun.
don't
It's
do.
fun. Yeah.
It's fun and it also helps us recharge in a way that we
Yep.
don't always get to do if we're not intentional about that. before I wrap up our episode, anything else? I'm going to make sure to mention the website, which will also be in the show notes and all of that. Anything else detail wise you wanted anyone
Yeah,
who
I thank you.
signed
I
up to
mean,
join us?
check out the villages. It's, you know what, as we age, we need the support system. We need friends and we need community. And
And it
that's the
doesn't
combination.
matter. And as you pointed out before, it doesn't matter what structure home is for you, whether
Right.
that's a condo, an apartment, a townhouse, a community, a
Right.
single family home, whatever. That it's not for one particular thing, it's for everyone. It's
Right.
also important for people to remember. I really think the village model is fabulous, which I've said a few times now, and I've said to you a multitude of times, because of that grassroots and also guided, community led, peer to peer component that has really strengthened a national network and has also been a really fabulous model for others as they age. And so I encourage people to think about villages as being a part of their solo aging roadmap, certainly their aging roadmap. But if you self identify as a solo or know someone who does, definitely plug them in because it offers connection and shared purpose. And my favorite part, peace of mind, so that once we've created that plan B, we get to live a dynamic life because we've done the homework. So we get
Right.
to paint the pumpkins and do the decoupage and think about the fun stuff, right? Because we've forced ourselves to think about the hard stuff.
Right.
So, Barbara, thank you so much, not only for joining us today, but for your leadership and for helping us understand how villages really are building that care, that connection across the country, especially for solos. To learn more about the Village to Village Network and hopefully find a village near you, you can go to vtvnetwork.org, and we will make sure that's in the show notes. And to explore solo aging resources, upcoming gatherings, planning tools, you can visit navigatingsolo.com. And if you go to find local resources, you can launch right to the Village to Village Network off of that page because they are an integral part of a resource that people should know about. So they've been there since the creation of the Navigating Solo website. So thank you to anyone watching or listening to the Navigating Solo podcast. If you've enjoyed today's episode, you can subscribe, rate, review, all those fun things we do now with podcasts. Certainly share it with a friend or a solo ager you know, or a professional you would like to learn more. All of those things are really important. So until next time, stay empowered and stay connected. I'm your host, Aileen Gerhardt, and this is the Navigating Solo podcast.